Okay, so you worked at Wells Fargo for a little bit out there.
Yeah, it was a lateral transfer as a mortgage
Lateral
processor.
transfer, yep.
And we were both miserable, like just freaking miserable. And so she brought up the idea. She goes, why don't you try, you always talk about the nutrition store, because when I ran those stores in Eastern Iowa, like I had control over that.
Yeah.
Like I was able to do a lot of stuff with the community, like a lot of pay it forward type, and then help people, like what we do now. Yep. But that was kind of like my first way to actually help people, was from a nutraceutical standpoint, and then get to meet people and talk to them in the store. And they just didn't like that because they didn't want us to be an information center. It was, you sell the CTS 360 weight loss kit for $289.99.
Did you guys have Complete Nutrition where you're from?
No.
It was more like a Southwest, Midwest, and I think it stopped.
Yeah. No,
there.
we pretty much, where I grew up, we really only had GNC.
Okay, so they tried to make it like that, but with guidance.
Gotcha.
You know, basically the employee would help you. They would have you like write diets and shit, right? Like,
well, no one was certified, as in, they would have you do that, but it was from a template. You circle 1 portion protein, 1 portion veggie. Like it was but they had their own products. It was all kind of like off-labeled.
I mean, they had the right idea. At least it wasn't you're just walking in as a kid and being like, hey, what's the best pre-workout? Like they tried to like promote actually helping someone as an individual.
They did in the beginning. And then the CEO's nephew, Eric Weedle, is the one who bought up almost all the franchises. That's when it became a money mill. Oh. That's why I wanted to leave, because they stopped helping people. They were just pumping out, which makes sense because they went bankrupt and whatever. But she always talked about, she kept bringing up, you always talk about these stores and how much fun you had meeting people and helping people and, you know, doing all these things with the community. Why don't you do that? And I go, well, that's insane. Like, we don't have the money, connections, time. We don't have any of that stuff. And it was the end of August in 2015. I remember it took me 45 minutes to get out of my car to go into the office, which was like a 5-foot walk. I just sat there and just was like staring at a tree and was like, I hate everything. Like if I could set myself on fire just for the fun of it. And I was at that point, man, I was so miserable. And that was the same office where I made that pregnant lady puke because I farted, because we were carving me up on pie filling and oatmeal. And that was right before I quit.
That'll do it.
That was my last hurrah before I quit.
Straw.
And so I did. I came home and I looked her right in the face and I said, hey, I'm going to quit my job. She goes, that's cool because I'm looking at units to rent out. So she was already like...
Classic Faith.
Yeah, she was already in the process of looking at...
It makes so much sense now that you know him, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yep.
She was looking at square footage. She was looking at amenities. She was looking at location, target demographic, like the whole spiel. And so we were like, okay.
She's got a whole business plan ready to go.
Pretty
She's
much.
just waiting for you to come
Got the
to.
portfolio.
She's like, finally, okay, yeah.
Walked in the door, quit your job, like, guess what? You're turning around, getting in the car, going to the bank. Because here's the portfolio.
Which we did.
Is that what you did? Did you guys get a business loan?
No, they laughed at me. And I went to Wells Fargo.
Oh yeah.
To get a micro loan. I was like, dude, can I get like 15, 20 G's? And the girl was like,
Sir.
we can't. I'm like, just talk. Stop exhaling. And she goes, we can't do that. You don't have any credit. I go, yeah, I do. I got credit. I got assets. I got stuff that you can put a lien against if you need to. And she was just like, no. And I was like, we work for the same team, man. Like, let's. Yeah. And it was no. So I found out if you go to a credit union, you can ask for an overdraft protection account, which is their way of saying line of credit.
Yeah.
Because they're non-for-profit, so they can't say line of credit because they don't have credit because no profit. Yep. And so that's where we got $15,000. And the town we picked was a town I competed in.
Yeah, why'd you guys pick that location?
So Westchester,
How did you...
Pennsylvania, reminded her of, was it Colorado Springs? Or Fort Collins. Very small business oriented. And what we found out was if you go to USPS.com/EDDM, it actually gives you the average median income for your zip code.
Yeah, I learned that when I had opened my gym too.
Yep.
You were looking at that, yeah.
So if you click on a route, they will show you can do all these toggles, variables like age, demographic, like the whole thing, and it'll actually show you the median income for the households in that route.
Yep.
And so that's what I used for Westchester. Like the median income was like $130,000. And we found out Chester County, which that was located in, was one of the richest counties in the state. And so we're like, all right, it's going to be a little bit costly for the retail space, but the revenue we'll get from it will be worth it as long as we do everything that we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did. October of 2015.
How'd you find that spot? Were you just driving around or?
No. So we told a girlfriend at the Golds in Hershey who knew Anjali.
Anjali, God bless her.
Anjali hooked us up with her boss who found us that unit. That's how we found that unit. So from end of August to October 15th, we did all this planning, and that's when we signed a 5-year lease, was October of 2015. And then we did a build out. We were like driving on that because I didn't stop working at Wells Fargo until like December. So we were still working full time and trying to do the build out on weekends.
Until it was open.
January 8th of 2016 was when we opened.
Yeah.
That was the official opening date. And we were living there. So
that was
we were living in
I wanted to make sure you didn't leave that part.
No, yeah.
Did you know that?
Yep.
They lived in the back of the store.
Yep.
On an air mattress with no heat for, I think it was 45 days. There was no heat.
How does, for me, that's someone that's 37 and still single,
Air hugging.
Is there like a conversation that took place amongst you guys, or is that just kind of like the way that you guys are? You just both figured you're just gonna have to live at the store because like you're married, you know your financial situation. Is there a conversation where you're like, "Hey, honey, we're probably not going to be able to afford 2 different leases, so like, how did that go?" So
the euphoric thing about Faith is she brought it up and she goes, "I don't care where we live." She goes,
so
"I'll live
said
in
it.
this."
She came out and said it because she knew that you were going to probably be thinking about that as a man.
Yes.
Because as a man, I'm thinking, man, I gotta provide a place for me and my wife to live, and then, so she, being her, came out and just said, "I'm
being who she is." She goes, "As long as it's with you, I really don't care. Like, let's just live in the store for now, and we'll figure it out."
Yeah, that's fucking awesome, man.
And that's what we did.
That's what I want.
And then we didn't have heat for the first 45 days, so we had this little heat fan that we'd have to turn on before we went to bed on our air mattress. And then 5 days after we opened, she decides to find a dog who is now our daughter.
Yeah.
And bring her back to the store to live with us.
But she found her where?
At a shelter, it's called the SPCA.
She just went, like, randomly walked in the
shelter.
She
went to do, like, was it volunteer work or go? No, Andrew Castor and I went. Oh, that's right. You went to go see, yeah.
She knew what she was doing. She's like, "I want a dog."
So she called me 2 or 3 times and I missed it because we had, like, one of the first customers in, so my phone was off. And I called her back and I said, "Hey, is everything okay?" And she goes, "I'll tell you when I get back. Okay, bye." And I was like, shit, she's going to bring a dog home. So she pulls up, and I'm just standing there waiting for a dog to pop out. And she walks in, and I was like, "Where's the dog?" And she goes, "Well, she can't come home today. She has to get spayed." And I'm like, "Oh, my gosh." So I go out the next day, and, I mean, Rhea, she's the same way she is now as she was then. So I was like, all right, like, let's.
Hey, wait, so how are you guys cooking and stuff? What were you doing?
We had a convection oven.
There.
So we actually lived off of ramen noodles, because we had a microwave, protein samples that we would, like, I negotiated with new vendors to get at least 50 to 100 samples of each. And if you open an account, they usually just throw that crap at you.
Yeah.
So that was like our main staple. And then the convection oven, we would try to cook chicken, instant potatoes with hot water. And then we would just try to afford, it was Domino's, was right across the street.
Oh, yeah, you get $5 pizzas from there, huh?
So if we actually had customers that day, that's what we would do. And then we'd watch movies on her laptop, and that was how we lived for almost 5 months.
What was it like at the beginning when you first opened? Like, meaning, like, what was the response like? Did you have customers coming in? Were you busy?
We had people on the first 2 days because of people that came to visit us from.
Because I want people to hear this part of it of like what what is that like? Because I've opened a business as well. I mean, the circumstances were completely different from you. I only did it because I knew that I was going to be fine whether it worked or didn't work. But in your guys' scenario, which is where most people are, you guys had everything on the line. You had to pay this lease, which was also where you lived.
Yeah.
Right?
Which we weren't supposed to be living there. We could have been evicted with penalty.
Okay.
So we had to keep it a secret.
Yeah.
So when people ask where we moved to, we're like, oh.
That's a lot of pressure. And that's why most people don't do what you did, because the comfortability of just working somewhere and getting a paycheck that you know is going to come in and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, like, when you think back at the time, think about it now and look back at that time, like, what was it like? Like, were people coming in? Were you guys like
no.
thinking you made a mistake?
Dude, we wouldn't see people for days and days and days.
Okay.
And if people did come in, they were like, oh, sorry, we thought this was the marketing place that was here before. And it would just, like, it's hard. It's like despair, but not full despair. Because you literally invested everything you have. You're $40,000 in debt. You have no home. I just got engaged. So this girl who said she wants to marry me, I can't even provide her any place to live. There's no heat. We have this dog. We can't eat because we don't have a kitchen. We don't have laundry. I don't know what to do. Yeah. And there was nights where she'd be sleeping on the air mattress and I would just start bawling, dude. It'd be 3:00 in the morning. And I'm like, this girl that says she wants to spend the rest of her life with me is sleeping on a fucking air mattress in 30-degree weather with a heat fan. You know, like, what am I doing? And that's when I learned to become aggressive. Like, very, very, very aggressive.
Yeah.
And the thing is that when I tell that to some people, they get so like, oh, like, I'm like, no, man, like, the most commonly used camouflage for aggressive is ambition. Yeah. Like, it's I just said, right, I remember that night, I showed you the picture I took of you and Rhea sleeping next to each other on that air mattress. And I said, this will never happen. Like, I'm going to look back and laugh at this. And so I just did very aggressive marketing, guerrilla marketing. I went from business to business. I probably went to 200 different businesses and just said, here's what I do. Let me get your card. I want to help support you. I didn't say a thing about my business. I didn't say anything. And I would get emails and phone calls. They go, hey, were you just in my store? Like, what do you do? Like, why did you want to support me and not? And I was basically to see if you would actually follow up. If you cared about what I was doing, like, to help you, and if you would actually help me. And so it just was doing that for, I think, 18 months straight, nonstop, going to any event I had.
How are you covering the lease month after month?
Oh,
during that time and affording to eat?
What we did was leading up. So when we got the lease from the realty company, I negotiated the actual yearly rent. So some people try to negotiate month by month. I did it the whole year up front. Because if you pay them a lump sum, they could shave off a couple $1,000s. And since it's a triple net lease, over the course of 5 years, you actually save even more money because that 3% annual increase gets trimmed. So we dissolved our 401k in savings, and we paid, it was like a year up front.
Okay.
That's what we did, but it saved us.
So you bought yourself a year. You knew you had 1 year.
1 year to actually make this thing work.
To figure it out.
That was our timeline.
Okay.
I think my projection was 7 or 8 months. And then that last quarter, or maybe it was 8 or 9 months, the last quarter would be to get segued into the second year so we could actually have a revenue stream to pay month to month without having to negotiate. And food, it was just, if we made money that day, we could eat. Like, there's no other way to, I'm not trying to make it sound like dramatic. That's literally all it came down to.
Yeah.
Because there was days we would eat maybe once, sometimes twice if you were lucky. And that's when people ask, like, what the best diet to go on is. I say, go open a business. Because I think I lost like 30-something pounds. I mean, I got real shriveled. We weren't really working out. I did have a membership to an Anytime Fitness, who Lou Samba, really good friend of ours, owns it. And I negotiated to, like, here, if I give you product, can you give me a membership?
Yeah, and that's where you guys would shower.
That's where we would shower. Yeah. Yep. because we didn't have anywhere else to shower.
Yeah.
So.
And then at what point did things start picking up? And can you think back at a certain time where you were like, at what point did you guys get that apartment and stuff?
So the apartment, she found the apartment in, I think it was around May of 2016.
This is like one of those things that me and GLOFF have talked about when we're like, remember sitting at the table, and it's kind of like, as we make more money, like you still don't, at what point do you start adjusting your style,
like your
lifestyle? Yeah. Right. Like I still struggle with that. Like I've always lived way below my means. I still am, but it's like what's the balance of like, at what point were you guys like, all right, we should get a place?
Well, it was about unbalance. So the way Faith brought it up, and she made a really good point. She goes, you have to, I mean, if you're balanced, like if we're here right here, living at the store, she's like, you have to actually be unbalanced to force yourself to actually make more money.
Yeah.
To afford these things. So we actually did it in a way that we couldn't afford the apartment.
Yeah, it was like you reverse psychologied yourself.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
And it worked because it's like, all right, now we have this second lease, and utility and whatever else that we have to pay for. We have to be smart enough to figure out ways to include additional income or additional revenue to the store.
It's the same leap of faith that you take opening the business.
Yeah, right? It was like doing that again. Yeah,
it's just doing that again, and that's all. The point I'm trying to make is that's all that life is. Everything that we do, that's the way it works.
Yeah,
and that's why I wanted you to talk about like what is that like, man? Because you guys fucking did it.
At first, it was daunting. A lot of panic attacks, anxiety attacks, and we actually had a lot of friction in our marriage too.
Yeah, and you know, he's open about talking about panic attacks and anxiety and that kind of shit too, man. Like it's so common, but people think that like people that take the entrepreneur route, like that's impossible for them to do, and it's like that like it takes a person that's like unaffected and doesn't have problems like everybody else, but that's not true. You know,
no, it's
you did it.
Well, and that's the thing. You don't think about, like, we never were like in our attic, which was the apartment, like, we're doing it. Yeah. Like, this is it, man. Like, we never said that. We never had that moment. It's like, okay, now that we are in a place where we can't afford anything anymore, like, what do we have to do to like keep this thing going? Because the robin's giving me diarrhea. Like I can't keep doing this. Like I just can't.
Can we maybe get some rice? We can now afford rice.
Can we get normal food?
And sometimes cream of rice.
Anything.
Sometimes bananas.
Yeah. And our dates wouldn't be to a calzone spot. Like we could actually go on a nice dinner and not go to some fast food chain.
But how many months did you live in the store?
It was around 5. It was around 5 months.
Okay, so about month 5, enough is enough. 6 months in, and then at what point? So you had the store for how many years?
7.
That's a long time to run a brick and mortar store.
Most businesses that aren't a full franchise fold.
I would imagine. I don't know. You might know, what is the average length of time a business stays open now?
Usually it's not even 2.
2 years.
Yeah. Depends on like your business model, your investor, like how much actual funds you like. But the average statistic is about 2 years.
Yeah, I knew it was low.
Yeah, and I mean that was before COVID. I don't know what it is now. I have no clue. Because we were looking at expanding in 2019, and then obviously that didn't work after. Yep. But instead, we opened a gym.
Which was in what year?
It was April 7th of 2019.
Yeah.
Because she just got back from training from the military, and I surprised her with a gym. So we had that. So the gym was a private, it was like a studio boutique. Like that's what I licensed it as.
You kind of fell into that space too, right? I'm trying to remember how you...
Yeah, it was... my lawyer...
We all want to open a gym. That's all of us want to do that, right? Because it's just like having your own stuff.
Yeah.
We're all opinionated, so we all want it to be for our
people. There you go. That's why.
Yeah. So any true meathead that says that they don't want to own a gym or they never thought about owning a gym, I find that hard to believe, or you're just not really a true meathead.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them probably just don't care enough if they say that. Yeah. Or they've thought about it and be like, that's a headache for me to even think about doing. I'm just not even going to do it.
Yeah, just going back to the thinking point. They just don't.
Because you hear people, I wish I had my own gym. And it's like, well, you're saying that now because it's busy. Or because a piece of equipment's broken. Or
so,
yes.
He did do it, and he found this badass... how do you explain what it even was? It was like a...
Looked like a little warehouse to me.
Yeah, it was like a warehouse.
Yeah, but there was only one... Was there anything attached to that?
Was it like a mechanic shop previously? Or something?
Yeah, it used to be. Well, the mechanic shop was next to us, and then ours was like a landscaping warehouse.
Gotcha.
But I think the original use was a mechanic shop, and then they put up a divider.
Yeah, kind of figured that's what it looked like.
Yeah, I think that was the original. But my attorney called me one day, and he said, "Hey, I got a client who owns a property that has a guy who opened up a 24/7 gym, had every member pay a year up front, and then left town. The door was locked. I mean, he was only there for about 3 months, took everybody's money, and then just ran. So he goes, hey, he just wants to rent it out to this jiu-jitsu studio. He has all this equipment. He goes, do you want to take a look at it? And I go, well, I'm not going to buy it. He goes, I don't care. I want you to give me a valuation of what you think this is worth so we can take it to public auction, blah, blah, blah. And so I go out there, and it's like almost a full gym of brand new equipment. Like, this isn't used.
I saw it with you, actually.
Oh,
I don't know if you remember that.
You did come out there.
Yeah.
I remember the Pro Maxima were the dumbbells. They went from 10 to 150 pounds, bunch of benches.
You were already kind of picking up pieces of equipment, though.
Well, that was after. So I bought all that equipment for dirt cheap. He just wanted 2 months of rent for all that equipment. And so I didn't have a place to store it. So I called a buddy of mine who owned a bunch of properties, and I said, hey, do you have anything I could just use for like 2 months?
That's right. Yeah, no. You came across the equipment before you found the space.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
The equipment was first.
That's right. Because you found all this equipment, you bought it knowing that it was dirt cheap.
It was, we got it for like
at some point.
100th of the price or something like that. It was a 50th
so that's right.
Of the price.
You got the equipment, and then you stumbled upon this space.
Yeah, I called a buddy of mine who owns a lot of properties up in that Westchester area, and I said, hey, if you have anything, let me know. And he goes, I'll keep an eye out. And then 2 days later, he called me, and it was that unit that we were at. Gotcha. And so it was still a landscaping warehouse, so we just had to tuck it in the corner and then put this blue tarp over it.
Super cool. The point of that being is I wanted to get, what was your schedule like?
With both of those?
Yeah, with both of those.
So
what was the day in the life like?
So usually would wake up.
Mr. Entrepreneur and sexy. You own a gym and a supplement store? You must be rich and living it.
Poor and angry. That was my motto.
What was a day in the life like?
So I usually would wake up at like 4:30 or 4:45. Yep. It'd be before my alarm would go off. I would just wake up because I knew it was going to be a long day. And you know when and you're just like, I'm just so upset. Like, I'm just irritated.
Yeah.
So I would just get up.
Sleep deprived all the time, but you still have to get up because you got responsibilities you got to take care of in order for the fucking world to keep on turning.
And you're just on autopilot.
Even though that world is just...
Yeah, it's just going
not much
shit anyway.
Yeah. But you just keep waking up hammering shit out every day after fucking day after fucking day after fucking day.
That's basically how every day would start, besides weekends.
First,
to go to the gym, be there around 5:30, and stay until about maybe 1 o'clock, and train people. And then I would try either train right away, or I would stop at home at our apartment, which was a new apartment that we were able to get during COVID, and then head to the store and be there until 8 o'clock at night. So and if I was at the store till 8 o'clock at night, because Faith was on orders for the military, then I would go train from like 8:30 to 10, and then try and be in bed by 11. And then I would do that every day.
Every day. For how many years did you have both then? 3.
3, yeah.
So that was your life every day for 3 years.
3 years.
The point of that is plus being 300 pounds.
Trying to
bodybuild.
Jesus, man.
And just this vicious cycle that you were in, this circle, it was almost like, it's like, for what? You know, like you weren't seeing, it's like, what do you do next, right? I'm getting to the point where I want you to talk about why you decided to move here.
Yeah.
Well, like I think I was thriving off of stress. I liked being angry. Because that's what kept me moving forward. Like
powerful.
Yeah. I mean, it's an energy. Yeah. So I was just angry all the time. And I remember telling you that. And I was like, dude, I don't know why. I'm just so angry. I just can't. I didn't want to talk to people. I was always just like very push away.
That was your overall energy because you were sleep deprived and running on stress all the time.
The big two. And then it was just not a place we wanted to live. It wasn't
it's not a good place.
Yeah, like the crowd, like it just wasn't our.
You just weren't happy overall.
No.
And this is another very valuable lesson that I want you to talk about is because while it's really like a full circle type thing because it's like you took that plunge to go from that most people are scared of, but everybody dreams of, which is working for corporate America and then creating your own life and being an entrepreneur and living that type of American dream. You were doing it, living it, in the middle of it, and then to realize, you had the awareness to be like,
this sucks.
Yeah, like
I'm
not happy. Yeah, like I'm not happy, and is it worth it? Is this what I want to keep doing? Because most people would just keep doing it because they feel like once you're in that deep, like you just keep doing it. Yeah, it's like there is no other option.
Sunken cost fallacy is what that's called.
Thank you, sir. Say that again.
Sunken cost fallacy. And once you've invested so much into something, doesn't matter what it is, it feels like it's impossible for you to leave it because you've sunken so much into it that the cost of you leaving it, no matter what the prospect might be outside of it, is just too large for you to even comprehend doing.
Yeah.
So you don't.
Yeah. But you can, when you're in deep like that and you're in it and you're living it, you feel like that's not even a choice. So
yep.
I think that was the catalyst was when I knew it was a choice.
Yeah.
And that was after Vegas. After we competed at the USA's and I just looked like just gross.
Amongst you and Faith, like were you guys talking about this for months before, years before?
We were talking about it after Nationals.
It's kind of one of those things where it's like you don't say. It would be one of those things like for me, it's like I don't want to say this out loud. Like I don't know if I want to keep doing this anymore because once you do say it out loud, then it's real.
Yeah. And we didn't want to like have any burden on each other of like I don't want to fucking be here anymore.
Right. So
like we both knew that we weren't happy.
Yeah.
That was the thing, but we didn't never physically said like, all right, what do you want to do? Like, do you want to get the heck out of here? Like, what do we?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's next?
Yeah. We never. But it was after doing the USA's this past July, and just seeing like how bad I looked, and I mean that as in like with stress. Yeah. Like, I mean stress too. I mean you can attest to that.
You know this, but I asked him at one point. I was like, can you because I wanted him to just not even do the show because I knew nothing was working.
Yep.
And I knew it was going to be a challenge to get him in shape for that. Like I knew it wasn't going to happen, but I was like, okay, it's okay if you don't pull through with this. Like it's totally fine. But he, of course, being him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just
had
never
to do it.
Yeah.
Went through with it.
Just too stubborn.
Yeah.
But we flew back to Fort Dodge after, and you just start thinking clearer. Obviously, when you get like food and whatever back into you after a show, and I saw my parents, and I was just like, we didn't see her parents for almost 3 years, and we were just kind of like walking around, like driving around Fort Dodge and just doing stuff, and we just kind of looked at each other at the same time. We're like, we can't know.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like we're missing out on everything, right?
And that's what it was. It was the reality of we were in our own little reality for so long.
But that's everybody, man. We all get that. Like I'm in my own shit, you're in your own shit, you're in your own shit. But that's like the beauty of like why we're doing this is to sit down and just take the time, like force yourself to like slow down, because what is the point of us being so busy and driving ourselves so hard and doing this go all the time if we can't even take the time to sit down and enjoy each other, which in my opinion is the most important part of life.
Yep.
Because all we have is each other. Yep. That's all that matters. Yeah.
And I think it just takes some people to be pushed to a brink to realize that.
Well,
and some people won't realize it.
The difficult part of it is that there's always the dichotomy that's there. It's you probably knew the whole time, like what's actually important isn't the businesses.
Yeah.
Like you knew that people are the most important thing, but like you can't actually fully embody that and acknowledge it while you're living in a life of scarcity.
Yeah.
You can't.
And that's what it was. Yeah, I mean, we couldn't go to holidays because someone had to stay at the store or at the gym or, who's going to watch Rhea or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, we had to miss out on a lot.
Yeah.
It was like that sunken cost fallacy where we didn't, that's all we had. If we weren't there,
it was going to crumble.
Money, and it was going to fall apart. Yeah.
You can't sit there and enjoy everything that's around you when
you
can anticipate like, okay, I'm not doing this right now. And in the next moment, everything that I know that affords me the ability to sit and enjoy collapses and everything is gone.
My life is ruined.
So until you're at a place that you have enough that you could sustain being able to have those moments, you don't ever think about it. We all know that that's the important thing to do.
You're right. Yeah.
But while you're going through it, it's like, well, you don't know if you're going to eat tomorrow because you weren't making the money that you knew consistently you could. It's like, you're not going to be thinking about, oh, this is just a great time right now. Like me and, you and Faith just sitting there with Rhea, this is a great time, isn't it?
Just
I love
living
both
it
of
up.
you so much. It's like, yeah.
Well, it's like the money you make too. Like we were churning money, but it was all going back into the business. It wasn't like you make anything,
which is even worse.
That was the frustrating
That's worse.
part.
Yeah, being able to see all the money come in, and then it's just like, oh, where's that going? Bam, gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got 3 leases to pay, and we got credit cards.
Hamster on a wheel.
Yes, that's what it was. It became you're just making money to pay off whatever bills or whatever debt, and it was just that every month. Back and forth.
So much scarier than having nothing.
Way worse. Because we talked about that. When we had nothing, we were actually happier.
Yep.
Because we didn't have as much stress or responsibility or owe as much. It was just, we made what we could. And when we did, we celebrated.
Yep.
It was in our own little way. But, when you were making,
And that's the beauty of being a kid.
And
right? Being a kid, man, like you're just completely unaware and pure to any of that. There's no responsibilities.
I had such a short time of that being real for me, so I can't relate as much.
Yeah,
but
you didn't get. You missed out on that.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,